Welcome back. Our guest is a busy person, and tomorrow he is taking a whole lot of group for a Bangla town walk and talk. It's aimed to provide an idea about the Bangladeshi community's history in East London. This is part of the season of Bangla drama organized by and facilitated by the Tower Hamlets Council. Mr. Ansar, Ahmedullah, tell us something about this walk and talk tomorrow, a walkathon.
As you said, it's part of this month-long festival.
Right.
And I think for the last 2 to 3 years, there have been, apart from staging plays,
Right.
they have been hosting other events to
Right.
complement
Right.
drama and natok.
Right. And it makes a difference.
So I think
it's outdoor.
of course, they've had, I think they've had talks, they've had seminar, they've had exhibition, and in addition to the talk and the work that I'm doing tomorrow. I don't know, you may remember, 2 বছর আগে আমাদের trust, another trust, we had staged the play called Altawali Story. অনেকে কিন্তু এখনো আমার ধারণা aren't really aware of the facts of Altawali, বা আলতাওয়ালি কে ছিলেন, কোন প্রেক্ষিতে তাকে হত্যা করা হয় এবং কোন জায়গায়। So the walk itself, it's a tour আর কি, the purpose is really to highlight and talk about the history and heritage of the Bengali community in East London. So the walk starts in Altawali Park, and I will take the group down Brick Lane and end up at Brady Center.
Right.
And down the route, I will be pointing out at different landmarks that are important to the Bengali community. So, for example, I will talk about Brick Lane Mosque. I will talk about the Bangladesh Welfare Association.
What is the history of Brick Lane, this building, which is called Brick Lane Mosque now?
It's a very interesting, it has a very interesting, rich history.
Yeah.
And I usually tell people, if you are looking to study the diversity of Tower Hamlets, you should start from that building.
Right.
It's not just a place of worship, it has a lot of history attached to it. And the building itself has been shared by at least 3 different faith groups and 4 to 5 ethnic groups. And as you correctly assume, this mosque did not start off as a mosque. It was built by the French Huguenot community, who at the time were fleeing France because of persecution.
Persecution, yes.
So they built this church in 1743. And then, fast forward another 100 years, as their numbers dwindled and Jewish community started to grow in this area, they had acquired the building in the 1800s, and they converted the building into the great synagogue.
Right.
And they were there until about, I would say, 70s. And again, their community also slowly moved out of the area, and Bengalis moved in. So Bengali Muslim acquired the building in 1976.
Is that what is called the Weavers Field ward? Weavers Field.
It's to do with, as you said, I mean, the French, many in the French Huguenot community were weavers, silk weavers.
Yeah.
And if you ever go down Brick Lane, if you go down Fournier Street and Princelet Street, the houses down those streets were actually belonged to silk weavers, and they would weave at the top floor. And if you look up, you'll see large windows. This was to allow light to come in. So yes, it was their church, and the Jewish community took over. And finally, the Bengali Muslims acquired the building in 76 and converted this into the Brick Lane Mosque that we know of today. So it's those kind of history I think a lot of people aren't aware of. I'll be talking about the Bangladesh Welfare Association,
Right.
which was formed in 1952 as the Pakistan Welfare Association, and then became Bangladesh Welfare in 71.
There used to be cinema houses on Brick Lane.
Yes, I will also talk about that. Cafe Naz, which is no longer the case.
Yes.
Cafe Naz was Naz Cinema. But it actually started in the 1930s as Mayfair Cinema. And if you go down Brick Lane, if you look at the top of Cafe Naz, you will still see Mayfair written on the top. And then I think in the 50s it became Odeon Cinema.
Was it owned by Indians?
No, no, it was owned by white people. 50s Odeon, and then in the 70s, Bengalis, they acquired the cinema and
It
called
kept
it
changing hands and names.
It was called Naz Cinema, in fact, one of the first protest meeting was held at Naz Cinema, in Altawali's protest meeting. I myself attended many concerts there. You could actually watch 3 films in those days. You know, if you bought 1 ticket, you'd get to see 3 films: a Bengali one, a Hindi one, and sometimes a kung fu film as well, all thrown in for good measure. So
You spent the whole day.
yes, I have fond memories of going to Naz Cinema. They also had a small record shop. So in those days, they would sell records, disc, you know, 45 and 75 RPM. They would sell audio cassettes. And it's the place where you can also, you could buy newspapers and magazines from Bangladesh.
Yes.
I think it was called Milfa.
Travel.
Yeah, travel and
The
shop selling music, films, videos.
But there were not so many stores owned by Bangladeshis at that time.
Yes, I mean, as I said, as the Jewish people gradually moved out, Bengalis acquired the business premises. And you know, initially they opened grocery shops, music shops, clothing shops. But I think by 90s, the clothing industry was very much affected by cheap imports from Turkey, India, and Bangladesh. So that killed that trade. So I think the Bengalis who were in business in Brick Lane, they became creative. And they converted some of those ground floor showrooms into the restaurants that we know today, Indian restaurants. And I think at one point there were up to 40 to 50 restaurants on Brick Lane itself. Hence the name Curry Capital, because of so many restaurants in one small lane. I mean, Brick Lane is also known as Bangla Town. As well as Curry Capital. It's because, you know, Brick Lane is, and I mean, Terminus is the heartland of the Bengali community, of the, I would say, of the entire UK Bengali community.
How many Bangladeshi, people of Bangladeshi origin are in this area? 200,000, 300,000?
In London, 300,000. In this area, 80,000.
80,000.
It's gone up. I think it was 60,000 in the 90s, and the last census said it's gone up to 80,000. So our population increasing. It's not going down or anything.
No. What is the breakdown? I mean, there are more young persons or more old persons?
I think half of our population are under the age of 15. So we have a lot of young people.
Right.
And of course, elders.
What sort of problems does this community have today? I mean, not from outside. Racism was something that was thrown at us, you see. But internally, are we happy that we have made it, we have achieved something, we are now prosperous? Or there are some internal problems?
I think, on the whole, we've come a long way, but I think there is still a long way to go. It may not be fair, but if you compare ourselves with other ethnic communities, I'm thinking about the Indian or the Pakistani community or the black community, we are still lagging behind in all measures. Be it education, be it employment, be it health, be it you know, accommodation,
sports, culture, media.
Yeah, I mean,
politics.
We are gradually doing well in all the sectors, but I think we could
we
do
have
better.
a long way to go, yes.
We could do better. If you compare yourself with other communities, then we are not doing that well. And that's probably because we had a late start. The Indians and the black community were already here before we came here. And the numbers were far greater in those communities than our community. So we were small in numbers, we came late. You also have to look at our background. Most of the Bengalis who came to this country had come from one area, one district, and mainly from countries, from rural areas. You know, they came from farming background, excuse me, and so they didn't have any acquired skills. They were also not that literate. So I think they faced much difficult hurdles compared to other communities.
Right.
The struggle was much more difficult. But saying that, I think as a community, you know, as I said, you know, we are well established now, and many within our community, especially young people, are doing very well. You'll find a young person in every single profession in this country now. And of course, we have elected members both locally as well as nationally,
Right.
both in the House of Commons and House of Lords. So, I mean, I'm an optimistic person, and I would say, yes, of course, we are doing well, but I think we have definitely a long way to go.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you, I mean, when we say that those who are here came as economic migrants, then we are their children. Is the migration still on? People are still coming in?
No, I think the migration stopped in the 90s, from what I understand. I mean,
But not from Bangladesh, but from other places they are coming in, is it?
Yes. With us, I think the migration stopped because, as I said, it was first the single men who then brought their families, and that took place throughout the 80s.
Right.
After that, I think it kind of stopped because you had your whole family with you, and more or less your extended family members as well.
Yes.
So I think migration from Bangladesh stopped after that, and of course it became much more stricter and harder to come to
Right.
the UK.
But New Year persons are coming, it's easy.
I mean, in the last 15 years, I think we had another group of people from Bangladesh, mainly student population and professionals or highly skilled people. I think most of them have gone back, but some are here.
Why I ask this question is because we have such an abundance of legal brains, lawyers in East London, and dealing with the immigration problems, you see. So that means there is a problem, there is a demand, and that's why they exist.
I think of the student population and highly skilled, many of them, you know, sometimes their visa expires, so they need to extend it, or some have...
They want to bring their families.
Not necessarily. I think some of them have come here and have sought as asylum seeker. So they need to make that application, hence you have all these lawyers assisting those people.
Very briefly, how do you see the future?
Future for me is bright, because all you have to do is look at the people who are doing well.
Right.
Look at our leaders, look at our politicians, look at our business community. They're all doing well. So there is no way that we can go back. We can only go forward. And I think with the whole community, we are definitely going to you know, go forward and make positive contribution both for the UK and for our community.
Thank you. On that very positive note, we beg to leave of you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Neaz bhai.
I hope that you have enjoyed the show as much as we have, and you have benefited from this gentleman's knowledge about the community. Same time, same channel, next week with another distinguished personality. Thank you.